The pandemic has put a lot of pressure on a lot of relationships, and I feel for certain couples, you know those couples, they got together like 3 weeks before lockdown and suddenly had to make the choice whether to move in or not. And I felt fortunate to have been with my wife for many years, that our relationship had stood the test of time. Because I have known her since 1988. That was the first day I laid eyes on her. It was grade 6 history class. I looked across, and there she was, an apparition, a vision. A petite young girl in a little wooden desk with little dangly legs that could barely touch the floor. And I thought to myself, that girl is short. And that was 88, so we've been together like 33 years now. And our relationship's actually older than the new South Africa. I mean, look, we didn't speak for the first 16 years, but in my mind, we were together. And in the time we've been married, which is now like 14, 15 years, there's only been one, what I call a brush with infidelity. And cricket fans, you may remember KG Rabada brushing Steve Smith as he followed through. It was sort of like that, and I also got a 1-match suspension, and I'll tell you how. Basically, you know, it was after a show. This happens to comedians a lot. I was doing a show about an hour and a half from Cape Town in a small coastal village. I don't want to obviously mention the name, Hermanus. And a very attractive Afrikaans woman came up to me after the show, and she said to me, Nick, can I Afrikaans praat? And I said, yes. And she said, die show was great. And I said, yes, I could understand that. And she said, do you guys want to go for some drunkies? I was with a friend of mine, and I said, do you want some drunkies? And he said, yeah. And I said, okay, we'll come for drunkies. And she had too many drunkies. And at the end of the night, I said, I'll drive you home. My friend will follow. And in the driveway, guys, I accidentally kissed her on the mouth. But there was no tongue involved, so that's not really cheating, is it, ladies? But in my defense, she was Afrikaans, and they do kiss everybody on the mouth. What is wrong with you Afrikaans people? It doesn't even matter. It's like mom, dad, oma, opa, oomies, tannies, nuggies, biermanne, biervrouwens, dominees, hondjies, kaikkies. You guys don't discriminate. And obviously, I had to tell my wife. She didn't really buy that, but I didn't want to keep it a secret from her because I'm a terrible secret keeper. And that goes back to 1995, where I kept secrets for a whole year from someone I was dating long distance. But to be fair, it was 1995. Very difficult to communicate long distance back then. No, we didn't have email. There was no WhatsApp. It was just email letters or phone calls. It was 800 Rand a minute on the phone. That's when the dollar was still 4 to 1. And the fax machine, but you know, the fax machine was next to my parents' bed. So there was no faxting going on. For millennials, that was sexting in the 90s, faxting. But it didn't really work out because it took forever for a dick pic to come through. On the fax machine, you're just sitting there waiting. And also, it was very rough on the penis. Anyway, so we're sitting in her car in the driveway in Hermanus, and then she turns to me and says, Nick, this is your opportunity. And I said, for what? In my mind. And then I realized very quickly, this is my opportunity to destroy my life and lose my wife and custody of the kids and the house and a lot of my cash and 80% of my friends. Because you always keep 20% of your friends in the divorce, but it's often the friends, the ones who take their alcohol home at the end of the party. So I declined the opportunity, and I think the reason for that is that I'm fortunate enough to have a very long history of declining opportunities. That goes back, I think, probably to Karen Nudelman in 1989. Now, I've changed her name, obviously, to protect her identity. It's Karen with a C, not a K. And I took Karen Nudelman to see Pretty Woman at the Protea Cinema in Claremont, opposite the Stanhope Bridge, around the corner from the park with the guy sold dacha behind the tree. But that's an unnecessary detail. And I say took her, but my gran actually dropped us in her old 1962 Austin Apache, which broke down twice on the way there. And we got the popcorn, we went into the movie. Julia Roberts' Pretty Woman, it had just come out. Very exciting. And halfway through the movie, Karen Nudelman puts her hand on my thigh. And I immediately black out. And what happened physiologically speaking was the blood just rushed up my thigh. And I know what you're thinking, some of you, but it skipped my dick. And it went all the way up my torso and then down my arms, into my hands. And my palms started sweating profusely. So when I came to, I wasn't going to take Karen Nudelman's palm with my sweaty palm. And to make matters worse, my gran, unbeknownst to me, had snuck into the theater, into the row behind us, the very seat behind me. And at this point started whispering my ear, Nick, this is your opportunity, my darling. I don't think it even started there. I think we have to go way back to my first love, Jane Baker. Jane Baker and I were in the grade 1 Waldorf school play. It was St. Francis of Assisi. I was playing the lead St. Francis, and I spotted her in the first half of the play. She had the most amazing moves, Jane Baker. Not in the play, because she was a tree, but during the interval. And I forgot all the choreography, guys. I was meant to be feeding the birds as St. Francis, but very reverently feeding the birds. And I ended up feeding the birds, but like very vigorously, like feeding the birds, feeding the birds, feeding the... I was 6. I didn't know about masturbation. And look, I didn't make my move on Jane Baker immediately, because our relationship was like the movie The Notebook with Ryan Gosling, obviously just without Ryan Gosling, or a notebook, or any form of relationship whatsoever. But other than that, exactly like the movie The Notebook. And so I didn't make a move on her for a few years. In fact, it was Peter Ainsley's 9th birthday party at Sikufle during a game of Kiss Catch, which has subsequently been banned. There's a variant called Catch Request Consent Kiss, but it's not as much fun. And we were down by the reeds, and she was chasing me. I wanted her to catch me so she'd kiss me. And so I let Jane Baker catch up with me, and she caught me and looked deeply into my eyes. We locked eyes. It was like a scene from the movie Titanic, really, just without Leonardo DiCaprio or Kate Winslet, or the ship named Titanic, or the iceberg, or the North Atlantic Ocean, or the band, or any sense of impending doom whatsoever. But other than that, exactly like the movie Titanic. And eventually she said to me, "Nick, this is your opportunity." And I said, "For what?" And she said, "It's called Kiss Catch, dumbass. We've done the catch. What the do you think is next?" She was very aggressive for a 9-year-old, and I'm pretty sure she's probably like a dominatrix now. I'm not really sure. And I looked back at her, and as much as I desperately wanted to kiss Jane Baker, I said no, because deep in my heart, I knew that Jane Baker wasn't Jewish. And I don't know how I knew that, because I didn't even know I was Jewish until my 12th birthday, when my dad sat me down and he said, "Boy, there's something we need to tell you." And I said, "Oh my God, I'm gay." And he said, "Possibly, but you're also Jewish." And I said, "And now what?" He said, "Well, we got to take you out of this school, move you to another school." And I said, "And then what?" He said, "Well, it's going to be your bar mitzvah, and you need to be able to sing in broken Hebrew from the Old Testament." And I said, "Why broken Hebrew?" And he said, "Well, hopefully your voice will have broken by then." And I said, "How am I going to learn Hebrew?" And he said, "Cheder." I said, "What's Cheder?" He said, "It's Sunday school for Jews, but on a Saturday to with your mind." And so I got there, and there were 5-year-olds in the class. I was 12. It was like Jewish Gulliver's Travels. I did a crash course. I learned Hebrew. I got up on my 13th birthday, and I sang the story of Noah from the Old Testament, or Noach, as we call him, because he was Flemish. I got up there. The opening bars were Rani Akara, which is broken Hebrew for getting the T-Rex in the ark was a nightmare for Noah. It was great. The after party was disappointing. Wisey Wiseglass had a much better after party the week before at the Arcade Game Centre, where Mrs. Wiseglass had given us 20 Rand in old giant 1 Rand coins and said, "Go wild on the arcade games, everybody." But I couldn't play arcade games because I'd come from a Waldorf school and I had a totally different set of life skills. If they'd asked me to play the treble recorder, or plant a vegetable garden, or knit a felt elephant, or crochet my own underpants, I could have done those things. But I couldn't play arcade games, so I took that 20 Rand home with me. Not just because I couldn't play arcade games, but also because I just discovered I was Jewish. So I took that entire 20 Rand home with me and invested it in Bitcoin. 20 years before Bitcoin was invented. And that's why I'm still here working. Mazel tov, Nick.